What's up, Rockstars? Today I'm finally bringing you another Kickstarter news update. Now, there is a ton to go over, from Dungeons & Dragons issues to finally some launch dates of some games that I've been teasing for over a year now. Literally there's all sorts of stuff to talk about. A lot in here, so let's go ahead and get started right away. Now, before I fully get into things, I just wanted to quickly thank my patrons and YouTube members. I'm financially independent from the game industry, which means that I can critique them and report on them free of mind because I'm not talking through my wallet, I'm talking through my opinions. So I don't take any money from any of them and instead rely on you guys to help support. So if you're able to and willing to, there is a link down below. But if not, that's fine too. A simple like, a subscribe, comment, anything like that helps a lot and I greatly appreciate it. Now, let's go ahead and get into this because this is some big news. So first of all, Gale Force 9 apparently handles a lot of the translations outside of America or outside of the US for Wizards of the Coast that do Dungeons & Dragons stuff. And apparently Wizards of the Coast wanted to end their contract about a year earlier than the contract actually said that it would go through with Gale Force 9, and they couldn't come up with a compromise. In other words, Gale Force 9 was like, no, we have another year translating your stuff, and Wizards of the Coast was saying, no, we'd rather you not for whatever reason. Maybe they want to do it internally. Who knows? Whatever. Either way, when there was no agreement made, what Gale Force 9 is alleging is that out of spite or, whatever, they've kind of broken their contract by refusing to, that Wizards of the Coast has broken their contract by refusing to approve anything since then. So in other words, they're just saying like, hey, we're not approving nothing, which means Gale Force 9 then can't release it and then sell it, so they've been losing revenue from that. Now, first of all, regardless of all this corporate crap, that's unfortunate for everybody that actually wants to buy this stuff in a translated form. I really feel for you guys. I don't know how it's been over there. Maybe if some of you have a bigger insight into this, please let me know. Go ahead and reach out to me either through my email or through the comments here on this channel. I'd really appreciate kind of hearing the availability of this kind of stuff for you guys. Are you guys not getting the newest stuff because of this? That would be really unfortunate. Either way, they're alleging it's about $950,000 in fees. And other remedies. Who knows where that will end up? That actually doesn't seem like a whole lot to me, considering the D&D brand, obviously, though I don't know exactly how much this translation deal is, right? I mean, at the end of the day, they're not making the content, they're just translating it, so they're kind of a service. And so I'm assuming they don't get like a tick from the sale, though maybe they do, I'm not sure. That being said, if they continue to not do this through the end of December 31st of 2021, if they keep not approving things, I imagine that number is just going to keep going up. And so if this happened since May, that this was an issue, then this is going to over double, I would imagine, and be closer to 2 million plus as a suit towards Wizards of the Coast. So a big news item there. I don't know what's going on, but my number one concern, as always, is not whichever company is losing money, because screw companies. It's you guys making sure that you guys can get your stuff at a fair price and without any kind of weird corporate crap going on in the background, hopefully. So regardless of anything, I hope that's resolved. That being said, if you sign a contract, deal with it, okay? There have been times where I've signed up for a review, and then it just ended up not working for me when it comes to scheduling or playtime or whatever. And you know what it is? I dealt with it because I said I would do it, so I did it. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Don't be stupid. But Wizards of the Coast is dumb anyway, so they're just going to continue to be dumb, I imagine. So it's unfortunate for Gale Force 9, assuming this is all true. But considering what I know of Wizards of the Coast through my time with Magic the Gathering, it doesn't surprise me at all. Okay, moving on from that, we have some Kickstarter stuff. We have Vindication, the board game, and Chronicles expansion. Really, the highlight here is the Chronicles expansion, though Vindication got very highly rated and reviewed and is well-liked from a lot of people. So if you didn't get the game and it looks interesting, go ahead and do it. From my understanding, it looks like a very Euro game with some pretty art and a cooler theme, though the theme isn't really attached per se to a lot of like the mechanics. Kind of like how in like Vanguard or Etherfields or any of those kind of new story games, you read about doing cool stuff, but you're not actually like doing the cool stuff. Same kind of thing, and that's because the Euro stuff is more interested in moving colored blocks to different spots, and really, at the end of the day, that's what you're doing. But it does have a very cool art style and theme, as you can see. So if you're a person that follows my channel because of the games that I tend to like, which as you can see is not very Euro heavy, but I imagine that means you appreciate this theme more than anything. So if you're interested in dipping your toe into Euro or something like that, this might be something to kind of consider. It's got maps and exploration and all that, but again, at the end of the day, you're moving these colored tokens. So just keep that in mind. Whenever I cover anything like this, it's kind of something I wouldn't necessarily play. I just always want to kind of let you guys know why I've chosen to cover it, and I think that's why. I think it makes sense to find one that's well regarded, that has a neater theme around its Euro-ness, and then kind of see if that's something for you. That being said, it's doing quite well. It's almost at around 6,000. That's great for an expansion, by the way, and a reprint. Again, this is mostly about the expansion, and you do tend to get quite a few things in here. So if we scroll down here, and actually, I do want to note, so I gave Orange Nebula a lot of crap for their Unsettled launch, because at the launch, they didn't show you hardly anything. It was all kind of marketing mumbo-jumbo company speak crap that didn't tell you how the game actually played or what it is you actually ended up doing. For instance, if I was to describe the kinds of things you're doing in here, it sounds like a freaking awesome Amerithrash game. You know, you're going on quests and you're fighting monsters and you're doing this crap, but the game actually plays by you moving cubes around. So it's important to actually tell you how a game really plays, not just the meta of what it is you're doing. I did not see this day one. However, looking at this right now, as of recording, they have a full rule book. They got playthroughs. They have a little like link you can do to go to an update. Now, I will note that update is like update number 7, which means it took them a few days from the 15th. I think they launched this on the 8th to actually kind of really deep dive explain the game, because reading this didn't tell me like anything. Like, to be honest, like they again, even this is really big highlights, like how you get these cards. I don't know, but they do have the rulebook posted. They do have some videos posted, and they do have this nice, oh yeah, click here for more in-depth overview of this expansion, and it is a very long, in-depth look at it. I did not read it all, spoiler. So if it is not up to snuff, let me know. But from what I can tell, this definitely shows a lot more. Unsettled didn't even tell you how many cards you got in expansions. When you bought a planet, it's like, how many cards come in a planet? I don't know. I still don't know that to this day. This is telling you exactly how many cards you get and dice you get and all that. So props to Orange Nebula for actually showing what us as a consumer are buying. I don't care how good your game is. If you don't tell me what I'm buying, I'm not buying. That's a big thing for me. It's why I don't do loot boxes in video games. It's why I'll pay premium for something that it shows me what it is I'm buying. If I know what I'm buying, I will consider paying money for that. But I will never buy a mystery box of any kind. So any kind of mystery crap, I'm not interested in. Okay, but seriously, like, highly regarded. So if you've thought of looking into it, or if you think the theme looks good, or the art around the game looks good, definitely look into this, because it's definitely a popular one that's just going to explode on the last 2 days, I'm sure, as well. Next up, we have Valda, Rise of the Giants and Ragnarok. A few of my patrons actually have the original version of this. Ragnarok is huge right now. Norse stuff is getting in vogue again. I know it was for a while, and then it went Egyptian, then it went zombies and Cthulhu, and then, who knows what. Right now, it's Norse stuff is coming back, and I really, really like the art style around this game. Like, this art style is actually super cool. It's like the cool kind of cartoony that I can really dig with. I've not played it, nor have I looked too into it. I just know it looks darn pretty. And as far as I'm concerned, if any of my patrons are interested enough to pledge for it, then it can't be that bad, because I have a lot of faith in them. So I've not looked into this as much as I'd like to, but I will. But I wanted to get this out to you guys first, so that you guys could see that, hey, this is out here. This is an expansion. They're still 22 days ago, so I will be updating you further once I look into it more. But right now, they are currently unlocking stretch goals, which is obviously good to hear. Moving on for that, we have The Boys. This is going to hurt the board game. This is going to hurt the board game. Not, this is going to hurt the board game. Don't hurt the board game. The boys are very popular right now for obvious reasons with the TV show going on. This is based off of the actual like comics, not the show. So do keep that in mind, that while it's the same premise and the same setting, this is not the TV show. So don't expect that kind of branding around here. This is first created by First Games, which is a silly thing anyway. It is very indie, and anytime, and I tell you, I'm not picking on anybody. I tell you this every time I see this. I told you this with Vampires the Masquerade. I told you this with Limbo. All this stuff, I make sure to tell you guys this. First time creator with an IP. Like, anytime those two combinations come into play, be cautious. And I don't mean be cautious as in don't back. I mean just know what you're getting into coming in. Very rarely does a first-time creator with an IP game have a smooth launch. It just is very hard to do. It's hard enough to make a game for the first time. Making a game and working with Chinese manufacturers and production queues and all that kind of logistical nightmare that most people aren't used to. And then, of course, exploding as a company, especially if you're popular, is a big deal. And there are growing pains involved. And typically, backers are privy to those growing pains. Now add an IP game where there's an IP rights holder that you have to get, confirmation with on everything and run everything through and work with and time-wise and all that kind of stuff. And it can get messy. It was messy with Conan. It was messy with, literally, it's just something to be cautious of. So know that going in. First-time creator doing that. I would hate to point you guys to something that you aren't fully prepared for. So don't go into this unless you're prepared for some kind of growing pain. That being said, again, it's the boys. It's got some very interesting minis, like this giant kind of bust, which I think is awesome. I'm a huge fan of busts. I'm not a huge fan of this style. It's a very odd chibi. It reminds me, I think Last Girl used this style as well of miniature, and it's just not something I'm typically into. The art, however, I think looks great. And it kind of reminds me, it gives me a little bit of, probably because of the comics vibe of Okko Chronicles, but obviously doesn't play like that at all. I'm not very interested in IP, so I haven't looked too into this, but I wanted to point out that A, it's out there, and B, just kind of give that normal disclaimer I always try to give, to just go into it, not just being like, oh my gosh, I love this IP, I'm going to back him instantly. Like, figure out if this is a game for you, if First Games is showing that they can probably, bring this to production relatively nicely and all that kind of stuff. Okay, next up I have the Ancestors Tenjin. Now this is a big one for me because first of all, it looks freaking sweet. The moment I saw this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. As you can see, I am a backer for the STLs. Definitely want this crap. He looks amazing. They're doing some very interesting stuff. First of all, it's physical as well, so they're willing to ship it to you. I know one of my patrons personally is fully backing this because he wants the actual printed miniature, and that's, I think, awesome as well. And as you can see, he looks freaking sweet. They are doing two cool things. And actually, okay, I'll go and tell you. So one of them is they are fully making it hollow to where you can wire it and put wires there to make his eyes glow, his sword glow, and his whatever gem glow as well that's corrupting him. That's super cool. The pieces, I think, are very well put together and smart. There's a lot of really cool freaking textures on there. The dude's huge, but you can scale him really tiny as well. So you can get it lit up, which I think is awesome. The other thing I wanted to point out, which is, I think, genius, I've never seen this done before, is using, the really cool die that you have, like the marble die? Well, they're actually adding that to this sword. So you can get, and then a matching gem, the sword in this kind of really cool styles that you would normally get dice in. And I think that's just awesome. That's a cool idea, and I hope that catches on because I think that's super freaking sweet. Now, the only other thing I wanted to show you guys is, just to make this seem a bit more real, I actually have him half printed here. As you can see, huge freaking sword. This is on my Elegoo Mars 2 Pro. And yeah, as you can see, he looks amazing. He looks really, really cool. Let me make sure that's focused for you guys. Okay, so here you can see him. He looks incredible. The texture here on the sword, awesome. It came out great. This printed out perfectly, and as you can see, he's freaking awesome. So, and huge. It's gonna paint up great. So really excited about him. Can't wait to print the rest of him. And yeah, he's just awesome. Again, I'm all about it. I showed you in my big 2021 video, if you haven't seen that, link below, obviously, of all the Kickstarters I know of coming out in 2021. And one of them is a board game that this guy is kind of alluding to and leading to and all that. Just great stuff, as you can see. He looks awesome. If there was any 3D printed campaign I would point you to for quality and just like a great display piece, this is definitely it. And so I'm glad that people without printers can get it, and I'm glad people with them can also get it. The pre-supported, by the way, was fantastic. Literally, I just loaded them in and clicked print. It was amazing. It's actually a great experience. One of the best I've had. Deal with some Patreons that aren't always good at that. Okay, moving on, we have Asunder. This is actually a tabletop RPG with some minis. Now, I cover tabletop RPGs because I appreciate them, because I know a lot of my patrons and even my personal friends enjoy them. Well, I don't partake into them. Too much of a time commitment and it's not structured enough. I like really, one of the reasons I like board games is the structure of the mechanics around it. And I just find RPGs a bit too freeform. That's what a lot of people love about them. It's just not my personal cup of tea, and I am definitely not a good role player, so there's that too. That being said, the art style here I think looks super crisp and clean and great. The miniature design looks cool. Obviously, I have not seen them printed, so who knows, but the basing around them all looks great. The fact that people are, just interacting with the bases, and it just looks well done. So I think those look good. Again, the art looks cool. The world looks awesome. It looks, that kind of gritty fantasy that I personally love. So they have both, PDFs and whatnot. And this is ending like soon. So I'm recording it now at 24 hours to go. By the time I post this, it's going to be less than a day. So if you're interested in this, down below there will be a link. Be sure to click that link and follow through with that. If it's already too late, you probably should have been subscribed to my channel with the bell icon. If you haven't, go ahead and do that. I'll let you know as soon as I can about this kind of stuff. Sometimes it's right down to the wire, but I do, again, if you had been subscribed, you would have known. So there is that. Next, we have Greenskull Castle miniatures. These are super, super unique miniatures. They're like all these little goblins, but they are like the freaking coolest goblins I think I've ever seen. This guy's adorable, by the way. But I mean, like look at this guy. His nose is super interesting. I love the face. It reminds me of like Plank from Ed, Edd and Eddy, which is a weird reference, but there it is. Just some weird stroke face kind of piece of wood there. I like his staff. The like guy riding a squig like enemy, and just very unique guys that look really, really well. They look like they paint up well. So if you're into goblins, or especially unique goblins like this, with, their noses, like this guy looks freaking awesome. He's like the freaking Witcher of goblins. I think they look anywhere from cool to goofy to cool. As you can see, here's Assassin's Creed, right? I mean, they got a few you might recognize. But I think they look cool. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And like some of them are like darn impressive too. Like there's some cool ones. And of course you can get like mugs and t-shirts, whatever the heck you want, I guess. Moving on from that, we have New York Crisis. This is not one I'm personally interested in, but I wanted to give it a shout out for two reasons. First of all, it's a relaunch and it's successfully funded, so that's awesome. And number two, I know a lot of you guys are interested in cop style board games. That it seems to be almost a genre or a theme of its own, so I know you guys are into it. And I think the character around the game seem interesting. So for instance, they're like the yoga instructor and the ex-cop grandpa, just like they have very unique unlocks that I think is actually kind of cool. And as you can see, they are now doing daily unlocks, so they will be unlocking a lot of that. Then they have these stretch goals as well, where they're getting new missions and whatnot. So there's a lot of unlocks they're doing, and I think they're doing it in a smart way as well. Miniatures a bit plain, but fitting for this style. I've not seen a very highly detailed version of this kind of theme for whatever reason. You get the cop cars and the taxis and stuff like that too. Honestly, it looks pretty neat. While not my theme per se, overall, I think it looks kind of cool. So, and again, I'm glad they were able to fund after a relaunch. It shows that they probably listened to feedback and did better this time. So glad to hear about that as well. Okay, this is a kind of a big thing. If you are a 3D printer, there is a huge Christmas sale going on MyMiniFactory. I'll have a link to this down below if you didn't get the email from any kind of subscription of any kind. And honestly, like a lot of these, like Artisan Guild and Titanforge Minis and Heroes Infinite, all this kind of stuff, They may not necessarily be telling you that, hey, there's 50% off. Pretty much all of this. All this is 50% off. Printed Obsessions, Cast and Play, Archvillain Games, all Lord of the Print, all these kind of big names, and even all the little ones. There are a ton here. A ton that you can get. I personally used it for Bestarium miniatures. I wanted a previous one. I think they're November one that I missed. So I went ahead and grabbed that at 50% off. It was better than the Patreon deal they give over there at 40. So why not? Seriously, there's some good stuff here. Pretty much every quality miniature group out there, and then some more giving 50% off. So be sure to use these coupon codes when you check out, and definitely pretty darn good deals there. Okay, let's do some updates. Middara, Unintentional Malum, the complete trilogy. Guess what? It is going to be shipping. That's right. They're looking at about 4 to 6 weeks of sea travel, and then another weekish at the ports, and then fulfillment will commence. So early 2021, we'll be getting Wave 1. Super exciting that they're going to be having all that. Excited to get my hands on it. It's been a while. It's been long in the coming, and I'm a little late to the party, but I'll be there. Frosthaven, another delivery update from there. Sadly, not a good one. So essentially, he's taken a lot longer on going through the scenario book than he had budgeted. Now, he has a buffer, but even with that buffer, he's unsure if he'll be able to give them the files they need by even the end of February, because he's only about halfway through, and based off the time he's been going, he's probably going to be late. So I'm okay with that, because anytime you're putting a lot of effort into scenarios, it means that you're trying to do a good job, and I'm all for that. Delays happen. Ideally, you get them done quickly. I can only imagine all the different ways he's being pulled. So I doubt he can just sit there and work on a rulebook for 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week kind of thing. Like, maybe he would wish he could. I don't know who would wish that. Man, that sounds terrible. But you get what I'm saying. Either way, there's a ton of other stuff for him to go through. So expect a delay there. He's just letting you know, hey, probably going to happen. So it's probably going to happen. Next up, Okko Chronicles, Beyond the Gates of Jigoku. This is exciting. Okko Chronicles is one of my favorite dungeon crawl games. It is definitely the unsung hero, my highlighted example of why is this not more popular. Some of the best components, some of the best miniatures, a very cool gameplay mechanic that plays different than any other dungeon crawler. I love it. I think it's a cool theme too. Just a cool game. And so anytime I can kind of talk about it, then I will. On this one, expect a 15 to 20 day delay. Now, their manufacturer gave personal reasons instead of blaming COVID, so props on them, though the personal reasons, who knows what those are. It's still unfortunate, but they did do the last version of Okko, so obviously they make some quality stuff. So what they're saying is, hey, we're not looking for another, another manufacturer, because we know they do good work, but we are kind of putting the iron, hey, you guys gotta do this. It was in production, as you can see. They did work on it, and then for whatever reason, looks like there's a delay, or it stopped, or something happened. So they're kind of investigating that, but letting us know right away. There's about a half-month delay. Okay, big news here. Come on, Masters of the Universe, the board game. They are starting to release the first dev diaries. You know what that means? That means it's coming soon. Probably in about 4 weeks, I would estimate. They typically do these about once a week. And they do typically about 4 to 5. So I would expect this to release probably late January or early February is probably what it's going to be here soon. By the way, it's this full title soon to be revealed, which means that this is not the full title. It's going to have some kind of subtitle going on there for whatever reason. They don't like the board game, which is kind of unfortunate. I mean, you would almost want to be like, hey, this is the definitive version, but maybe they want to keep going into it. I don't know. But very high level here. But it is Mike Chanel doing it, and if he does it as he did the Bloodborne stuff, then expect some very good insights into how the game plays, and I think that's great. Next up, Kingdom Rush Rift in Time. This is not a good update as well. So they are saying we're addressing quality issues and the path forward. Now, I have not unboxed my version yet. It's literally the last thing I have to unbox. I've unboxed everything else. There's going to be a lot of unboxings here in the future on the channel, just as we kind of get through that, especially for this week because of the Christmas stuff going on here. But I'll be obviously on the lookout for some of this stuff. People have not been happy with a few things. Now, I reported in my last video about how they printed the heart tokens in gray instead of red, and people kind of called them out on that. And so now they have some more issues as well. So, first of all, the late communication of changes. In other words, they changed stuff and then didn't tell us. What they were saying is that was just an oopsie. They were talking internally and didn't think to inform the customers. I have been in companies where this is an issue, where you're talking about this stuff and you lose sight because you're just in the trenches. It's not necessarily that you don't care. It's just you're working on this problem and you're doing your job. You're talking with other people doing their job, and you forget to actually think about the end user. And because if they're not in your mind, if they're not in your mindset, then you forget to let them know, right? And it happens. It happens even on personal teams. I've been there. I understand. It sucks. That being said, it is very important to learn from this and very important to have some kind of internal structure to where we, as the consumers that paid you to make this, are forefront in your minds. I don't know what that is. I know, like, for the current company I work at, we used to struggle around, like, safety and stuff like that, right? And so what they talk about is how, like, now every meeting that has more than 3 people in it has to have a safety share where you're talking about safety in some kind. It's kind of silly and kind of stupid, but it does force you to actually think about it. And so anytime that can happen, whether it's, maybe it's something like, hey, at the start of the meeting, always go over, customer numbers or something like that. I don't know. There's a ton of ways to do that, a ton of tricks to do that as a company, but definitely want to keep us in mind, because then you'll remember to tell us about it. Okay, so what are some of the issues? Spider tiles are made out of cardstock. So as you can see, they had some issues with the overlay when it was really thick, and so what they did is they made it all this kind of thinner cardstock. Obviously, that is a downgrade in the component quality, but it lays a little bit better. Apparently, that's an issue, I guess. I don't know. I didn't play with the other version, so I don't know. And I don't know how this version's any worse or better, but it was a change and they didn't say it. The trays are poorly designed and manufactured. This, I heard, is really bad, where it's really hard to figure out how to make this thing work. The worst one I've ever seen is for Black Rose Wars, where you can actually damage your components by putting them in there because it was so tight. When you got to get them out, you could just split tokens. Very, very bad, and it just didn't work. Hopefully it's not that bad. Again, I'll let you guys know. The rulebook lacks clarity. That is not a surprise to me. That's pretty much always the case. That being said, they're getting with Gaming Rules team to kind of go over that. I don't know if that means Paul Grogan himself or somebody else, or I don't know. So it's the Gaming Rules with an exclamation mark. There's probably a few Gaming Rules style stuff there, so I don't know exactly who that is. But and it says team. I don't know. I mean, Paul Grogan's his own guy, so I don't know exactly who that is, but I guess they're going to be working out on that, and they will give it to the PDF form when possible. That's great. That being said, ideally you get it done on the first part, and then their plan moving forward, where they're going to talk about game trays and all in storage and stuff like that. However, how they're going to do it is through a campaign next year. So they're working on a campaign for 2021, and in that campaign, they're going to be offering for free deluxe upgrade to the game trays. You'll just have to pay for shipping, or $15 towards, the all-in stuff and whatnot. So they're going to try and make it right. It is one of those things where, again, Lucky Duck Games definitely had their biggest success here, and it exploded. And with that comes scope creep and all sorts of other stuff that you have to deal with, and it just kind of happens. Hopefully, again, we can stick through this growing pain and it ends up good on the other side, but definitely not something you want to repeat, and something I'm sure I and others will be looking at in their next campaign in 2021, just to make sure they've kind of solved those problems. That being said, they have a great mindset about it and really putting us forward on that, so I do appreciate that. Okay, moving on. We're almost done here. We're on the home stretch here. One thing I wanted to point out with Twin Goddess Miniatures, this is the STL Miniature Patreon, is that they will be adding a ton of stuff to the welcome box next month. So if you're interested in that, definitely be on the lookout for that. And I mean like a ton of stuff. I mean just a whole bunch of different variations on different things, and a lot of different minis are being added there. And I think that's super cool. So I'll be mentioning this probably in January as well, but a lot of different minis are going to be added, so that's super cool to see, and I really like their stuff, so definitely be on the lookout for that. If you haven't been wanting to, or if you've been thinking about it, it might be worth it even just for January to get that welcome box, because they're going to be adding a lot of stuff to it. Moving on, there's Townsfolk Tussle. This is about the Pledge Manager. It is closing January 2nd. It is a 1-month Pledge Manager, and non-backers, no late pledges. So Quick pledge manager, I'm fine with it as long as it means that you go and you start making it. You get some pledge managers that last like half a year, 9 months almost, as they're like working on stuff and not ready to do it. All it means is they are ready to make this game and they want to make it. I'm fine with that. I loved how the quick turnaround from Claustrophobia. I'm fine with that. The no late pledges, I don't understand nearly as much. I mean, I guess I do. It probably, and I'm not trying to speak for them, but it probably has to do with them quoting numbers to the manufacturer saying, hey, we have this many that we want to make, and they'll make that many. And if you get a whole bunch of late pledges, it pushes that out. In other words, the manufacturer will say, yeah, sure, I'll make some more for, this much extra or whatever, and you can amend it and, do all sorts of things with contracts, but it takes time to make those. So if 5,000 other people show up, well, now you have to make 5,000 other copies, and it does delay you because of that. And I'm kind of wishy-washy on this. On the one hand, I'm fine just saying, hey, you pledged, here we go, this is what you got. I like how simple that is. I like how it draws the line very clearly instead of that fuzzy line like, okay, well, when do you close it? If people are still backing 5 months later, do you close it now, or do you let more people pile in? On the other hand, I do feel for people that did miss it, and I think that's really unfortunate. So hopefully there will be a reprint, or there's going to be a retail, or something like that. And it's not just, bam, done. Hopefully you were paying attention this month. Especially this month. This is a tough month. There's going to be people out on vacation. There's going to be people out in Hawaii. There's going to be people at their loved ones' houses. Or I've barely been to the computer myself. I have family over for the holidays. They're leaving and on Saturday. So I'll have a little bit of time like at the end of December. But for the most part, people are just busy with stuff. And so it's kind of an unfortunate timing there. So again, I'm kind of wishy-washy there, but I guess we'll see. But either way, January 2nd, if you haven't paid for shipping, do so now. Okay, this is kind of a big deal. So this is from Wyrmwood, and Doug, the CEO, stepped down quite suddenly, it seemed like, about a week ago, as you can see based off this. To kind of explain what happened. And while he's stepping down, he's not leaving the company. So Doug has and again, I don't watch a lot of this. It's not my style at all. It seems very millennial to me. And I don't know, it seems staged to me. You can tell people are on camera and you can tell people are acting a certain way and acting goofy and haha and jokey and whatever. And it's just not my thing. But 40,000 views and all this crap, obviously a lot of people are. So I wanted to let you guys know. And I know a lot of you people put a lot of money on this Wyrmwood stuff. So it's good to know about this. Wyrmwood is growing and expanding and essentially going corporate. And what that means is he essentially got this document detailing a desire to have like an HR department. They didn't have an HR department and all this other kind of stuff, right? And he realizes that while he personally is not that kind of guy that likes corporate stuff and HR stuff and whatnot, he realizes that there's a lot of people there, a lot of employees that want longevity and Wyrmwood to be a success for many years to come. And for it to grow, it kind of needs this stuff as it expands and kind of gets more like that. And you can see here, there's stuff like SAFE and OSHA and COVID and HR and all that kind of stuff, right? And so, and of course, they're doing safety inspector crashes the shop, no more kills, question mark, exclamation mark, also weapon. Like, again, I'm not into the style of this kind of stuff, but they are growing and they need that kind of stuff. And so he's saying, you know what? I don't want to be in the way of that. So while that's not my thing, I'm going to step down and let somebody else who can handle that do that, because I'll just resist it and he'll just be a project manager. So I think that's a huge, while I don't like the caricature of most of the people on this show, I think that speaks highly, highly of Doug. I can't imagine, let's say this channel blew up or whatever, right? And suddenly I had to step away from it and have my thing suddenly not be my thing anymore because I know it's the betterment for everybody else. Like, that's a hard thing to do. I can't imagine being in that position. So props to Doug for doing that. And that's big news, but it looks like they got Jason over here, the new CEO, with weapons or whatever junk they're doing. But anyway, yeah, so there was a transition in upper management at Wyrmwood. So if you put a lot of money in there, just FYI, that being said, it looks like it's probably pretty okay. To sum up, Bloodborne. Bloodborne is having pledges go out in early January. Hot dog. Now they're almost saying like, oh, sorry, I know we're getting mid-December. I'm fine with that, man. An early January pledge. Yeah, let's have it. I've had a ton this month, so I'm fine with it not coming this month. I look forward to it in January. Okay, we're almost done. This is the last little bit. Tanares Adventures, the pledge manager, opened again. So it opened on December 10th, and as far as I know, there's not really a close date. They talked a little bit more about the RPG. They showed some of that amazing art. I love this art style. It's very high fantasy. It's very focused on the character. They're huge in there, and I love that. And again, it's that semi, like, believable but fantastical look that all the characters have that I really appreciate. And I love the attention to detail on, like, the texture of everything. I've been a fan of their art for, like, the longest time. So yeah, and again, their new minis look great. So there's that too. Dragons, they're looking much improved. A lot of stuff there, but essentially, yeah, for Wave 2, their pledge manager has reopened. And finally, Bloodstone will be out on Kickstarter January 2026. If you take a look at this sucker, what you're going to notice is that it's a lot more mature than I think a lot of the stuff they used to do. And so it looks pretty good. Very bloody, very violent, lots of, like magic and violence going out and everything. It looks like it's PvP and PvE. I don't know how mixed it is. First there was an arena fight, and then all of the arena fighters are going after this monster still in the arena. What that means about the gameplay, it beats me, but there's definitely some options there. So that being said, if you look here, you can see the actual, like, some of the components that we have with the game box. Big old character cards, but it looks like for both bad guys and good guys. You have the arena itself that obviously you're fighting in, and then a lot of the kind of heroes and stuff. I don't see any repeated, no, actually these are repeated right here. These three are the same. So some repeat sculpts, several different types of dice, some cards and equipment and whatnot. A lot of stuff going on here. Super excited about it. I'll let you know once we know more about it. And with that, I'm done with another Kickstarter update. That was a lot, guys. Yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully that was some good info for you. I will be giving you another update probably after Christmas. This week is going to be maybe an unboxing or two for you guys that I've already unboxed it. I can push it out to you guys after a quick edit so I can spend time with my family. Do that as well. Play some board games. Enjoy some time with each other. Family and friends is what this time is all about, and definitely something I highly encourage all year round, but definitely around this time. Hopefully 2021 will be better in a lot of different ways, but 2020 was pretty darn good for board games, I feel, so I'm still happy about that. So with that in mind, again, I'll be talking to you guys, my past self, with some unboxings, and then after Christmas, we'll pick right back up with some updates about what I backed and some updates about what's coming up in January, so be on the lookout for that. With that in mind, have a wonderful Christmas, have a wonderful Hanukkah, or whatever it is you celebrate. Just happy holidays, and I hope you have a wonderful time with it. I will talk to you guys again at the end of all this craziness leading into 2021. Bye, guys.